Victoria Esquimalt Police Board. Thank you for joining us online today. And of course, we always want to welcome everyone who's taken the time to observe the board and to learn and participate as they can. And at some point in the future, I hope that we will actually be having a conversation about making that a little bit easier, perhaps returning to those wonderful days when we can actually meet in person. It's time for the future. As always, too, when we begin to gather together, we take a moment to reflect on the privilege of being able to do that in these remarkable land and ocean territories, and to reflect, at least for a moment, take that moment individually, I hope, as well as a group, to really honor and thank the people for that privilege, and to, in particular, look for those moments individually in each of our lives when that becomes very personal things. We have a moment to see something, or do something, or observe something, or feel something, when you can actually make that notice something that means different to each of us. Everyone has a chance to do that each day, and I'm urged to do that. It's happen, or I'm certain that everyone who's watching that moment to say thank you, Haichika, to this nation and this Esquimalt nation in particular, whose territories all of the communities represent and reside. Moving on, I'll ask the board if there are any declarations of conflicts of interest that need to be expressed in the report today, for any of the matters that are on the agenda. Does anyone feel they have a conflict? None declared. Thank you very much for that. So then, looking at the public agenda, it has been published and it has been circulated. Are there any items that need to be adjusted, being added, any comments, corrections, or errors to the published agenda? Then would someone like to move adoption of the agenda? Thank you very much, Paul. By Elizabeth, thank you very much. Favor? Opposed? Often so much. For minutes that have been attached to the agenda, those are the public minutes for the meeting that was held on May 16th. Errors, corrections, corrections. Then would someone like to move adoption of the minutes, please? Sean, please. Tim, opposed, adopted as well. As far as the board co-chairs update, Mayor Desjardins today is attending an all-day meeting at the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority. It says her regrets. I know that she could. We have had, just on her behalf, but we have been, she and I, on behalf of the board, having a variety of meetings looking at potential future options and future ideas, and trying to, of course, consider the resolution of various items. We have had some excellent conversations, of course, as well around our strategic plan, and I believe that that will be moving forward at some point in the future for the public as well. But thank you. And a variety of other activities that will expand more on the next time we meet. That, as far as the chair's update. With regard to the committee update, usually we would have reports from committees at this time, because of course our committees meet every month, but as the opportunity this month, June, to actually provide a special opportunity for the board to receive some media training based on our committee meetings, and also to do some additional work on our strategic plan, again, which will be coming forward very soon. So that means that we do not, in fact, have any committees today. This is on to the board member engagement update. Anyone on the board like to report out on their activities? Charlotte, go ahead, please.
Thank you. On Saturday, I coordinated the Changemakers Gathering Festival event. And as a coordinator, I reached out to Vig PD and West Shore RCMP and invited both departments to attend the Changemakers Gathering Festival, which both departments did. They set up side by side. They both brought their canoes to share the work that they're doing with Indigenous youths in the community. The event was at Starlight Stadium in Langford, but Langford was very clear it was an Indigenous-led event, and I really wanted to show the message that the West Shore CMP and Vig PD were very welcome and invited by Indigenous communities at the event. We had 19 youth volunteers, with 17 of them being Indigenous. The 2 canoes were both a station for our youth volunteers to stop at when I let the parents know of the children and leaders of these Indigenous communities, that the youth could have the opportunity to volunteer at that station, and the departments were allowing the Indigenous youth to give tours of the police vehicles to young children. The parents all responded with, "Wow, that is so cool." And then when I had the 19 youths in front of me and I was letting them know all the volunteer tasks, and I mentioned the stop at the canoes that they could work at, and I said, if anyone here is uncomfortable or does not want to volunteer at this station with police, please let me know. We had students from both SD 62 and 61 volunteering, and all of the children were quite happy to show police vehicles, and no one declined the opportunity. And in fact, they argued over who got to volunteer at the police station first. And it was just a really beautiful moment that I wanted to share and extend thank you to Big PD, particularly Jason Laidman and Del Manic, who attended for the day.
So much for that, Charlotte. Great story. Anyone else like to volunteer? Any board members about any engagement activities? Yes, Sean, go ahead, please.
Yes, very much. This is a little bit different. Over the weekend, I received a thank you, I guess, by a constable, David Brownser, for, I guess, the part of his journey experience with PTSD. A very well-known, very well article on TC, and that he really well. What his experience was like, something PTSD, going through a journey of healing, and many supports that he reached out to. And there were separate public posts that were made very specifically. It's been to Carolee Jones, members of senior leadership, Dell, and myself. And I want to thank publicly to David for the acknowledgement. I didn't really understand what part I had played in it, but he explained to me that during his time off, my check-in with him and conversation with him helped him sort of keep things off his mind, so to speak, but also to show that, I guess, to show support for the board, that we very much care about our members and we very much understand difficulties and challenges of your job. So it was surprising, I didn't expect it, but it was a very nice honor. But more than anything, I think it goes to show how much support you really need when you're dealing with mental health issues. How many different avenues of support one needs, not just one. There's not one. You can't just go to psychiatrist, say psychiatrist will fix it. No, there's psychiatry, there's family supports, there's workplace colleague support. There's going to be obviously media family, just etc. There's so many different avenues one has to take opportunities to to seek and just for that journey to. And I think that was what spoke to me, is that he shared in that the different supports that are available, and of course the supports that maybe weren't available. But I'm hoping that we can build upon that. I think part of the board overall strategy in the past few years is share mental health and well-being for our members. But at the same time, there are folks, of course, who may not have enough supports or just may not have enough privilege. But at the same time, I think the story highlights that we're going to try to find ways to support management board will hopefully get to a much better place and be more with it and we'll probably have more stories of journey. So I initially also want to thank you for part of the process. I understand who's the member to see that is very much engaged.
Much for that, Sean. Any other board members like to share anything? Comment briefly that I seem to be seeing Dell at lots of things, so we keep running into each other. And one thing in particular, which isn't retrospective, but I'm looking forward to, it's the Reserve Constable Grad Ceremony. That's going to be a very great event. Right, hearing nothing else from other board members so far, then we'll move on to the BC Association of Police Executive, which I believe is Charlotte and Michaela.
Yeah, so this will be my final BC Association of Police Boards update. We recently had our conference and AGM in Nelson, where I completed my 2-year term as president of BCAPB. And now I am moving into the past president role. Michaela has been the alternate for the past year, but with myself being president, I had to attend all of the meetings. So at the AGM, Michaela has now been brought on to the executive as secretary. So congratulations to Michaela. And for the next year, the two of us will be attending meetings, myself as a non-voting past president and Michaela on the executive. And I think before we move forward, we would have to make a motion to change Michaela from the alternate to the Vic PD board member.
I take it you're making that motion?
Yes, please.
Someone like to second that motion? Thank you, Sean. Any discussion about that motion other than our great thanks? Thank you, Michaela, for taking that on.
Thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Those in favor? Opposed? That is, of course, unanimous. Chairman, anything else?
Congratulations, Michaela.
Yes,
Really
thank you,
excited.
Michaela. Yes, very much.
And thank you to you, Charlotte, for all your work. The conference was fantastic and you did such a great job organizing it and hosting it. And I think that regardless of your role, you'll have to come back and some stories at future conferences until the end of time.
You always know you've done a good job when you get asked back. Thank you, Charlotte, yes, for your service, and thank you. All right, that moves us on to the chief constables update. Chief.
Hey, perfect. Thank you, Chair. And just before I start, I just wanted to echo on behalf of the department, Charlotte's work as president of the BCAPB. Phenomenal work, clearly amongst your colleagues. Charlotte, you're highly respected, and the 2-year term that you did move a number of key initiatives forward. So, as a police chief on behalf of the Victoria Police Department, proud to have our own board member as president of the BC Association. Just the report that I'm going to just talk about quickly is in your package, and it's on page 3 of 14. Just basically summarizes the highlights of some of my external internal engagement. I met with a number of new staff. A couple highlights I'll have is attended a number of briefings. Had the pleasure of promoting 3 constables to the rank of sergeant. Participated in the Victoria Day Parade with our reserves and volunteers and Inspector Connor King and Inspector Jones. Very well attended, and again, it's always a pleasure to be a part of the Victoria Day Parade. Throughout the ceremonial first pitch at the Harbour Cats game, baseball season started on June 2nd. There, I think you threw out the ceremonial first pitch with Dr. Waddington on the second day, Saturday. Yeah, I also attended on Saturday the Upper 4th Street Fest. And so it was amazing. Members of the DDPA were there, but it was just such a vibrant, people were out with strollers, dogs, families, there was face painting, there was balloons, there was food, there was lots of things to do and see, and it was just a great event to be a part of. Also visited the grade 6-7 split class at Central Middle School. Just I get invited every so often to my old middle school, and just an opportunity to engage with students. For 1 week, I'm not sure if the board members know this or not, but as part of the Peace Executive Mentorship Program, I had Deputy Chief Holman, Ottawa Police Chief Deputy, that was here with me for 1 week. So he shadowed me in the middle of May and was able to, we were able to kind of share with some of the challenges and some of the initiatives that are taking place in Ottawa. He was able to learn a little bit about some of the things that we're doing here and some of the challenges that we have in Victoria. There's a lot of similarities. And so I just want to thank my leadership team for those that took time to meet with Deputy Chief Burnett during that time. A couple other updates that I have that I wanted to share with you is the partnership that the Victoria Police Department has forged with the National Hockey League, with NHL Street, with the Victoria Police Athletic Association, is highly active in youth engagement in youth sports, and also the Victoria Royals Hockey Club. We've always shared a strong partnership with. We're going to be able to bring NHL Street to Greater Victoria. The response for kids aged 6 to 16 has been overwhelmingly positive. In fact, we might have almost too many kids in some of the age categories that will, it's a good problem to have. Registration is, I believe it's still open to the end of this week. Basically, it's street hockey. It's fun. It's connecting youth, giving them new skills, allowing them to develop new friends, stay active. It's going to be for 4 weeks. This will be a shortened season this year. It's going to start on July 4th for 4 weeks. And we're going to be supported by the officers, staff, officers, and our volunteers. And we're quite excited to build on a full season next year and get started this year. The other 2 updates that I have is Topaz Park. So last week, you would have seen the news that the Victoria Police Department really started an incremental approach to addressing some of the entrenchment and some of the safety issues that we've seen in Topaz Park. I can tell you that the approach from the Victoria Police Department has been one of a lot of conversation, a lot of warnings, followed by written warnings, followed then by asking people to pack up their tents, knowing they can come back at night when there's no other place for them to camp, but really preventing entrenchment. And I can just share with you, the very first day, 7:30 a.m. Monday morning, our officers are there in support of bylaw in the park, and we hear yelling and screaming coming, and notice smoke billowing next to a large encampment. And 2 open fires burning near 2 tents. Luckily, those tents were saved and they didn't get on fire, but a number of garbage, clothing, and a couple of propane tanks were in the immediate vicinity. So extremely serious, dangerous situation. We just happened to be on view and were able to move people away, evacuate some of the tents, call the fire department to extinguish the fire. Later that same morning, this is just on Monday, there's a disturbance inside another tent, and one of the individuals involved left the park. A short time later, that same individual was reported to have broken into a locked backyard and was threatening the homeowner with a hammer, or was seen with a hammer. Was called to 911 made because the person saw this person on the property. They were fearful that they're going to smash through their sliding door window to get in and gain access to their property. The PD were able to identify this individual and make an arrest for break and enter a short distance away. So enforcement continued the rest of the week. I can tell you that we started with about 18 tents. We're down to about 4. Everything is being done with lots of communication, making sure that people have this to know. I want to also share with you that most of the people, if not all of the people that are entrenched in that park, either have been evicted from supportive housing or were invested in housing because they choose to live. But it's really a good proactive way for us to kind of make sure that we are looking after the needs of the community and some of these events become unsafe. The last update that I have is the School Board 61 Board of Education decision to remove police school liaison officers. So that decision was made on May 31st, and it was extremely disappointing. I've shared my comments publicly on a number of different platforms. What is just most disturbing to me is that there was a lot of misinformation shared by the trustees, and one of those information that was shared was they spoke about the calendar year 2019. I think PD had submitted 128 incident reports for arrest at a school, or on school property. 128. And the reality is that in a review of our records, only 2 youth were arrested at school or on school property. So big discrepancy there between 128 and 2. The other comment that was made by this trustee was that in 2017, only 4% of the school police liaison reports involved student-initiated file versus a police-initiated file. And I think what was the inference that was being made falsely was that police were there initiating many of the calls and really focusing on enforcement rather than kind of proactive, positive engagement. And nothing can be further from the truth. When we looked at our data for 2017, what we noted is that 82% of the calls to the school, 82% that particular year, were initiated by principals and staff. So, and another 6% by parents. So here you are at 88%, which between teachers, parents, and principals. They're responding because of the need to make sure that we're engaging the students and also the percentages where, the school program really is not, it's not really taking kids, arresting kids and criminalizing student behavior. It's really addressing worrisome behaviors. It's diverting people and giving opportunities away from the criminal justice system. And so I just wanted to just make sure that the record was clear on some of these misinformation and the comments that were made. I look forward to a further discussion. I want to just share with the board that I've had a number of parents, teachers, ex-teachers reach out to me in a number of different forms, offering their support for continued engagement by the school police liaison officers and or maybe another path forward. And many of these parents and teachers are syndicating and the school trustees don't speak on their behalf. They made a decision, but it doesn't necessarily represent what they would want for their families and their students. So I look forward to further discussion and perhaps revisiting what this may look like in the future and what the role of police can be in schools and how we can all work together. My comments on that, I'm happy to take questions.
Chief, are there any questions for the chief on his report? Seeing none, thank you very much, Chief, for your report, and we'll move on to item J for standing items, and that in fact would again be a chief on equity, diversity, inclusion, engagement update.
Right. So that's the bottom of again my report that is on page 4. There's a number of events that I attended. They're listed there for you, and participated in the law enforcement torch run with a number of our big PD members and members of our Special Olympics community. And then I was invited by Martha Martin, Chantal Ward's mom, for a private family event on our third anniversary of her daughter's death. Attended that private family event with them on June 4th. Attended a South Asian seniors lunch. I talked a little bit about going out the first pitch, but just on the relationship building part, I meet every year with the Harbor Cats also to just provide a welcoming address to the team. Many of the players are here from town, and we had a relationship building event also at a Harbor Cats baseball game with members from the family and the Aboriginal Coalition and a number of the staff that were there. There was an opportunity to watch all day in the afternoon and share kind of some company and share some laughs and supporting it. And also, as Charlotte mentioned, on Saturday, attended the Indigenous Change Makers Gathering Festival.
So much. Any questions or comments for the chief on the EBI update? Thank you very much for that, chief. Let's move on now to new business. We have 3 items of new business, and the first item is with regard to the roadmap for a healthy and inclusive workplace. Chief, can you introduce this?
Yes, perfect. Thank you for that, Chair. The roadmap is in your package. I wanted to just share this, and this is more for the new board members who may not have seen this, but the senior leadership team, working also with the union, we have a number of working groups that are looking to really look at how we can have an inclusive and healthy workplace. So we created a roadmap. And this was done a number of years ago, and we continue to make progress on it. It's divided into 3 categories. The first one is mental health and wellness, and you'll see a number of expected outcomes or goals that we have set under mental health and wellness. The second one is equity, diversity, and inclusion, and some of the steps that we are taking for ensuring a respectful and inclusive workplace. And the last category is leadership. It's really leadership / communication, about how we can better communicate through communication back and forth through the rank and file, and making sure that we're engaging all of our teams in prioritizing what their needs are and making sure that they understand what the objectives are of the organization. And so it's a kind of a work in progress, but I won't get into it any further. I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have on any one goal. I wanted to just a lot of these are driven through the Human Resources Division, so I want to just give a shout out to Inspector Kira Lee Jones and to Deputy Chief Jason Bateman There's initiatives that are shared equally amongst many people on our leadership team, but the bulk of it is through the Human Resources Division and Deputy Mayor. Just want to acknowledge the work that they're doing. Appreciate it.
Any questions or comments from the chief? Yes.
I'm just wondering whether there's a safe reporting process, and somebody's experiencing harassment or bullying or racism or anything. Is there a place for them to do that where protected, I guess, from perhaps that might not like being having that pointed out?
Deputy Latham and Deputy Watson worked on a policy, so Deputy Latham, why don't I just let you kind of word on what the new policy is?
Yeah, we have a newly minted, I suppose, policy and reporting procedure. Every service has been actually pushed it fairly hard in the first instance and made it interactive actually. It's all about. Inspector Jones and her team are working on a training package. This isn't just this policy, this is quite important. Comfort of people. There are a number of areas that are addressed. Policy is policy. It's all about the role of the training and creating that culture. That's going to be. Great deal of heavy lifting, for instance.
Yes, Paul. Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, reading the background document text on page 6 of the report. It's a good report, by the way. Let me just start with that. I'm unclear. It talks about a series of surveys. Was that the sworn staff or civilian staff as well? Where did those surveys? Who got the surveys? I guess is my question.
Yes, no, good question through your chair. So there's a number of engagement opportunities that we've had with our staff. So there's been a couple of surveys that we've done over the last number of years. One of them was the survey that we partnered with the union on that really looked at mental health and wellness and what the supports were. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that we didn't just have a survey and we didn't address some of the issues that were came. So we really have formed a working group between the union, both unions, between our QB union and our police union and our senior leadership team. And we embarked on a path about what we were going to do and how we were going to advance some of the recommendations to improve workplace culture, improve engagement, and make sure that we're promoting a healthy workplace in many, many aspects. And so what we did is we actually worked with a Victoria Scrumble Police Board on this as we put the document together. And instead of having multiple documents, we thought that this would be a really good to develop a roadmap. And under the roadmap, we'll have the 3 headings that I mentioned.
Any other questions? No, thank you very much for that, Chief. Now moving on to B, item B, this is the ICD tuition reimbursement and learning support member Dylan. Sean, do you want to just explain what that is quickly?
Yeah, thank you very much. So just some context for public and us board members. So over a year ago, I sought to receive some education training from student corporate directors, which is sort of the highest level of knowledge training in Canada. It's about 6,000 folks across Canada that have their designation, which is called the ICD. Anyway, I applied and I was able to take the program. Cost was about just over $20,000 personally, self-funded. Although most folks in my cohort organizations pay for it, presidents of banks, vice presidents of nonprofits, and deputy ministers of planning. I went ahead and did my own. However, with the support of a couple of board members and some encouragement from Mayor Desjardins, who's not here today, I made a pitch to see and appreciate your support. And part of the motion for that support was to show proof of completion. It's the package today. But the more to it, I just want to thank members of the board and Doug Crowder and all folks were back here with some more that were very encouraging and supportive of this program. It was quite the process. It's over a year long. It's hundreds of hours of learning because it's virtual. So you see many days in front of a Zoom screen, so it's quite taxing, to be honest. Normally they take place in most cities across Canada. So remember, you fly in, you sit in for a few days, you fly back. It's over a series of modules. And of course, there is a final exam component, oral exam component, which is quite it is put on through the Provincial School of Education in Toronto, so it's quite high level. But what I got out of it was a higher, better understanding of governance, finance, compensation, audit, risk management, which are now new skills to add to my resume. It also shares some board that I can bring some perspective in terms of going through some scenarios that may not be comfortable, but we've those exercises, and also learning from one another across Canada. Some of the situations that many boards go through. So of course, it includes nonprofit boards, public boards, and government boards. So I have the ability to sort of speak to all of that family. So really, I just wanted to share with the public that going forward, I'm probably bringing some learnings and sort of examples of how continue to make our board dynamic stronger, how we can continue to invest more time in our board in terms of oversight, foresight, and hindsight. I got some buzzwords here, just in case the proctors are watching YouTube, because I'm still being examined, I don't know. But that being said, it just really is an opportunity to thank the board and the community for allowing me to take on this education and bringing my learnings forward in the future. Again, I encourage any board member to do the program or a member of the public if you're thinking of doing it. It's a great program. And that makes me too.
John, we're always happy to help people with professional development and to give you the opportunity to grow them. Just for the public's information, what this is a previous motion actually that the board previously did agree that they would pay up to $1,000 to help compensate John for the much larger than that cost associated with this. And so this is leading that because half of it was paid upon completion of the training, which he gets provided adequate proof of. That doesn't require a motion today, and so let's go on to then see a new business. There's another invoice actually, and this is an invoice from Communications referencing, I think, earlier when I was speaking to the fact that we don't have media updates today, is because there was some media training before. This is the invoice associated with that, and so it is from Communications. The amount of $2,730, $2,644. Or would like to have some payment in that. Is there a second in that? Any comments on it? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, very good, thanks much. And finally, we have two items of correspondence. The item, the letter from the DCAPB regarding the executive members. Charlotte, would you like to just speak to that briefly? Or perhaps Michaela now in your new role?
Yeah, this is just a letter from Patricia Barnes, indicating sort of what Charlotte already discussed and briefed everybody on about how we changed. So I'm just gonna get the letter. My new role.
The most important part of that letter is confirmation that in fact our own Michaela Hayes is now the secretary of the board.
So you may be questioning your decision now that I can't even find the letter. I don't know if you can backtrack it at this stage. But yeah, it's just an updating letter from Patricia Barnes about the new change in the executive and the creation of the past president.
Super, really good for us, I think, just to receive that. So motion to receive. Well, would you like to make a motion? Secondary receipt. Thanks very much, Sean. Any other comments for that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Now, last piece of correspondence, actually it's not correspondence, actually it's some information about upcoming or following. Even haven't they changed conditions?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's good for the board to see some of the letters that we receive for our officers and our staff for the great job that they do. And if you look at the accommodations that's in your package, you'll notice that a lot of them are talking about the officers' empathy, their kindness, their passion, and they're helping family members with mental health crisis. In one case, they're reviving an individual by providing CPR, right? The officers are receiving, and they're in very, very difficult situations and dealing with loss of family members or where people they've called to assist. It just kind of summarizes and provides you a bit of a snapshot of what the officers do and they're responding to these types of very difficult calls.
Thank you for that, Chief, and thanks for sharing that information. I think it is always important to get that on the public record and appreciated not just by these folks, but by the many folks whose lives they touch. So thanks very much. It does actually conclude the existing agenda for the public meeting. Any other items said? Then we'll look for more.